So the first thing we're gonna do is glue the pieces of wood together, and to do that we just need a polymer glue. This is probably the best stuff you can get. It's a little expensive, but it'll last a really long time, and it is extremely strong. To hold the curve in the wooden sword as the glue dries, we're gonna make a jig. And I take two 2x4, so it's really, really strong and will resist the curve. So what I do is I take a small piece and set it in the center, probably like this. And then I'm gonna place these on top like this. And then I'm gonna clamp it on the ends so it holds it in a bow, and then allow it to dry for 24 hours, and it'll be extremely strong. So this is really easy. At this point, all we're gonna do is we're just gonna put Gorilla Glue down the length of the board on the clean side. So I removed the stickers, so I'm just gonna run and glue. And this stuff will go a really long way because it foams once it starts to work. Then for the other side, I've got this jar of water. I'm just gonna kind of wet this piece of wood. And this allows the glue to enter into the pores in the oak. And that way this is really just gonna join this wood entirely together. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fix this on the end. Get that moderately tight. I don't need to tighten it down all the way. I don't wanna crush the wood unnecessarily. And what I'm gonna end up having to do is probably release this one some, so this one can reach, but what I'm gonna start to do is put a little bit of tension on this, so it kind of just clamps the whole thing together. And what happens is the glue dries with it curved, and it can't release that curve because the glue, and then over time, it ends up just kind of adopting the natural curve that you forced it to have at the beginning. And what I can do with these clamps is I can make it so it's not gonna wander side to side like it's wanting to a little bit. You can see it just kind of straighten them up. All right, so I think I'm all finished here. We're gonna let this cure for 24 hours so it's all solid. Then I'm gonna take it to the workshop where we have all the rest of the tools that we need to finish this up properly. Here we are in the workshop, and we have taken the piece of oak off of the jig, and as you can see, it's very nicely curved. So it is fully adhered, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna run the table saw down the middle and hopefully get 2 swords out of this.
This did turn out really good. This side got really burnt. The saw was like not really cutting, it was just kind of like burning the wood away, it seemed like, but yeah, these are gonna work well. It's kind of like too sharp. We need to make it handle, but
Oh, ooh, you may have just made it 1 sword. Did I? Yeah.
I didn't swing it that hard.
Sounded like a crack.
It did. It just separated the glue.
Oh shoot! It did separate the glue.
Oh well.
Well, it's okay. That can be redone. But it didn't have enough glue. Oh boy, that's not good.
You did say yesterday.
I don't think I put enough glue.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I'll have to re-glue that.
so if you're making the sword, make sure you put a lot more glue. So it looks like we're down to.
It said on the bottle. It said use sparingly. Don't use too much.
Looks like we're down to 1 sword. Well, that throws a little bit of a wrench in our plans. I think we were hoping to have these done by tonight, but as you saw, this one just completely separated. So I think we're gonna have to come back and just try again. Just use more glue this time, I guess.
The bottle said use sparingly. Yeah. That's what I did. I already said that, but
let's do it again and use it unsparingly this time, and then hopefully we'll be able to come back in a couple days and have something that we can make a couple swords out of. Father Fort is off screen picking his nose.
No!
Trying to distract us.
It's a lie.
I am putting probably 3 times as much glue. This is how much I should have done in the first place, but learn from mistakes. Now this should definitely be enough.
So we got boards here to make sure we have a nice flush fit and pull the swords together nice and evenly. And then we have another piece of wood in the middle to keep the 2 swords from gluing themselves to each other. And then to make sure these pieces of wood don't get glued to the swords, we just put pieces of notebook paper in between them, so we can just rip it away when the glue's done drying, because otherwise we'd end up with just a big wooden block of glued up mess.
So it's been overnight and the glue has dried. I'm looking at the pieces now for the first time, and it looks like they're actually properly done. The glue is coming out of the seams almost all the way up and down the entire length, and this one even more so. So I think we have a good bond. What we're gonna do next is I'm just gonna go over this with a chisel or some sandpaper and get off the excess glue, and I think we'll be good to start planing these blades down to the proper shape. So for the handle, what we're gonna do is I think about 3 hand lengths. So just stack your hands up, and that feels about right. Maybe just a little bit longer so you can get 2 hands on there so you can get leverage across it. Then we'll put the hand guard right here, and we'll run 2 scales like these. Where'd they go? Not there. Like these. And we'll glue these on, and then once the glue is dry, we'll shave it down, shape it up to be a good handle. And then the hand guard will sit on top of these. So we'll see. I'm just gonna use a pencil and mark where this handle will go to. So that way, when I'm using the planer, I don't accidentally plane down the interior edge of the handle. So that'll do. So what I have here is a planer. This is probably about an 80-year-old planer, but you can find these almost anywhere. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run this down the edge of the blade, and that'll take the corner off. The blade shaves off the wood a little bit at a time. And that way we'll have a little bit more of a sword appearance rather than this piece of just plank. So it'll look a little bit better when I'm done. So we're ready to do the handle now. We've gone ahead and shaped the blade up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put lots of glue, water, just like we did when we made the blade. So this is gonna be pretty simple. Just take these 2 pieces, sandwich them on either side, glue, clamp. We're gonna go ahead and do that now. So the glue is dry, and now we're ready to take off all these clamps. This might take a while. So I'm just shaping the handle down. These planes or pieces of wood were a lot bigger than we needed, and that just enables us to get this to the shape we'd like. We're not doing anything fancy, shaping it down. When we clamped this wood, it left some divots and black marks in the handle, so I'm using the file to carve these out. And the other thing is, when you make a sword, you want the handle to be oval, not round, because when you're holding it in your hand, the oval shape allows it, or prevents it from twisting in your grip, and it also allows you to understand where the blade is without looking at it. So you always want to have an oval handle, never round. I'm just going through and doing some finishing work, just making sure everything looks nice and symmetrical and polished up, and then we're going to do a final sanding and a coat of polyurethane. I'm going to do the hand guard too. All right, so the handle is finished. We have polished it up and it is looking pretty good. So I think we're gonna move on and go ahead and do the handguard, which we're gonna make out of this plywood here that I found. So I'm gonna use some washers. There they are, found them, okay. We're gonna use these washers as a guide and lay them out in the shape that we want, trace it, and then we're gonna cut it out with the jigsaw. All right, so I'm gonna use this washer as a template and use it to kind of get the general shape because I like the size of it in reference to the sword. I'm gonna check the plywood for little holes. Sometimes there's gaps in the plywood and that can be weak. So I'm not gonna use this area right here. It's got that hole in the plywood. So I'm gonna move down maybe this way a little bit. This area looks good, no holes, and no holes on that side. So I'm gonna put my washer here, and it just worked out that the inside of the washer is also the diameter of the sword approximately. So I'm gonna do like that. Then I'm gonna offset it like this. Do the same thing. These obviously need to be in a little bit, so I'll use. Okay. Should have good. So I'm going to tell where the blade is. And I'd like to make it a little smaller so that way it snugs up nicely on the blade that isn't loose. If you make it too big, it's gonna wobble around and fall off like that. All right, and then I'm gonna get something that's straight, and I think it's pretty straight. I'm gonna connect these lines, connect there. Okay, so now I know I'm gonna cut out this box in here. That's all gonna get cut out, and then this outside edge is gonna get cut out. So I'll start by cutting out this outside edge. So this part is kind of crucial. In the past, I've accidentally made this hole like too square or too round or whatever, and then it takes a ton of time to refine. So I want to match as closely as I can this shape on this. And what I've done is I've actually beveled this edge of the blade, and then I stopped about 1/2 inch up and left this pretty square. So I should be able to just cut this as a square and just a little bit smaller. What I want to do is I want to put this on. It'd be a little too small. I have to get a file and just take a little bit more off, and this should, I need to like almost force it on, and then it'll stay. And after I put a little oil and polyurethane on it, it should kind of just swell a little bit and stick. So we won't have to put anything up on top to hold it on. Yeah, I have no idea what this is called.
It's got the screw on it?
Yeah, it's got a screw in it.
I don't know.
You don't know either? Okay, so this handled screwy thing, I'm just gonna use to put a hole through this plywood so that way I can get the jigsaw blade through it, because that would be impossible to get inside the wood and cut out without having to cut through the ring. So I'm gonna have to take the blade off, feed this through like so. This is a great tool, by the way. No idea what it's called though. Okay, so we got this cut, and I want to see how it fits on the blade. And it is way too small, which is what I planned for. So instead of cutting it out more, I'm just going to grab a file and file it down, test it, see if it fits, and continue to repeat that until it works. Okay, it's getting a little closer. All right, so I think I've got this all good to go. It looks like it's gonna, well, there's a little bit of tension. That's kind of what I wanted. It really is nerve-wracking.
You just have to inch it down like that?
Yeah, just a little wiggle at a time. I might want to use like a little rubber mallet. This wooden one looks pretty cool. Just tap, tap, tap it.
There's no way that's gonna be faster.
You're right. Not faster. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Look. If it breaks, I'm gonna do what they did in the Bible and tear my clothes in sorrow. Oh.
Cover yourself in sawdust. We don't have any ash, so just cover yourself in sawdust.
Okay, there we go. That is perfect. Look at that. It's like getting almost unmovable right as we get to the end. So that means I can just look at that. It's just about perfect. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty nice. Yep, there you go. Nice and flush. Looks pretty level. So I think
really good.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and sand this thing off and put a clear coat onto it. We can either use oil or polyurethane, but I think this is gonna look really nice when it's all finished. All right, so we've stepped out of the shop. I'm gonna go ahead and put a coat of clear polyurethane over the sword. And what that does, it just protects the wood and kind of makes it look nice and shiny. And it just kind of finishes the whole project out.
Is that like a fast dry poly?
Yeah, it is. And you want to always do this in like a really well ventilated area, obviously, and try to stay out of the mist. The sword's finished now, so we're gonna let this thing dry. I'm gonna hand it off to Isaac so he can do some proper testing.
Thanks for watching, guys. Please consider subscribing if you have not already. Real quick, we just want to mention we are actually featured on a podcast recently. It was recorded a little while ago, and it should be coming out towards the end of this week. The podcast is called The Gentleman Scofflaw Podcast. It can be found on Spotify, on iTunes, just about anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. Check it out. Check out the episode that we're on. Give it a listen. The guy who hosts it is a really cool guy. So, in the meantime, we will see you in the next video. That was not good.
Nice.
Oh well.